Hey guys, what's going on? Today I'm doing a review here of the new sourdough cheesesteak melt from Jack in the Box. Now maybe you've seen that funny commercial of the Jack in the Box dude. It's like his cousins, they got mullets. I mean, it's got fake mullets in it. Definitely check that out. Link will be down below, that funny commercial. But the whole point of their commercial is it's his cousins from Philly, and they say it's a Philly cousin approved sandwich. I'll be the judge of that. I try and review them all because I love Philly cheesesteaks. I'm a big Philly cheesesteak person, and I've had plenty of them. Still haven't had a real authentic one from Philadelphia. That's my dream. But as for this, we'll see how it turns out. Let's go ahead and get it unwrapped and check it out. So at first glance, it looks like it's kind of overflowing with some of that steak, which is definitely not a bad thing considering the price on this one is about $4.69 in my neighborhood. And this sandwich by itself, not really all that big, probably about 4.5, maybe 5 inches in diameter. It's going to be packing almost 500 calories and 1,300 milligrams of sodium. Let's go ahead and cut this bad boy in half and get a better look. So looking at the sandwich here, we don't really see any distinctive layers of ingredients, but the ingredients in the sandwich are the grilled sourdough bread, grilled onions, fire roasted peppers, Swiss style cheese, and the thinly sliced steak. And the sauce on this one is actually what they call an onion mayo, so mayo with obviously a hint of onion of some sort. But we'll see how that tastes all in all. But pretty standard stuff for a Philly cheesesteak style sandwich. Now I'm going to go ahead and take a bite and see how this tastes. So for this cheesesteak melt from Jack in the Box, it's definitely something, if someone took a bite out of it, they'd definitely say, oh, this is a Philly cheesesteak. But personally, I've definitely had better, and even coming from certain fast food places, I've definitely had better. Now my main problem with it, which is the main ingredient of this, is the steak itself. Now they call it thinly sliced, fresh steak, but really it's not even that thin for one thing, and they're just like little thin strips of steak. They're just like little strips of steak, kind of just chopped up in little bits and bites, and they're not really uniform in any way, but to me, I really just didn't like it. There wasn't much of a flavor to it, and they really didn't have any seasoning or anything like that. But at the same time, the texture's kind of weird. Like, rubbery is almost like the only way I can describe it. It almost tastes like it's microwave steak. It's not very tender. It doesn't just kind of fall apart. I mean, the taste isn't really all that great either. So for me, the main ingredient being the steak, it's kind of a letdown. But you do get a generous amount of it, but I mean, a lot of something not all that great doesn't really help. But that's mainly just my opinion on Jack in the Box's steak. I'm just not really feeling it that much, but it's definitely not the worst, but certainly not the best, even from a fast food place. But as for the rest of the sandwich, I mean, you got your standard grilled peppers and onions. They do add a decent amount of flavor. I actually get a nice bite from the onions, a nice bite from the peppers, and they do have plenty of flavor. Same thing like I have with a lot of places with their fried onions. I'm not really tasting the onions as much as I'm tasting the peppers, but there is an onion mayo sauce, which I think is a great thing, because then I'm actually getting a little hint of the onion throughout the sandwich that normally is overpowered by the peppers, so that actually worked out pretty nice. And as for the Swiss style cheese, it's kind of just there. There's not really much of a smoky flavor coming from the cheese. It kind of just glues everything together and helps out a little bit. But the cheese is kind of not even really there. And last but not least, definitely that sourdough bread, which I think is actually pretty delicious as well. It's a nice way to switch it up, definitely compared to something like a bun or anything like that. This was definitely a better way to go. I personally love sourdough bread. Now this is definitely not bakery style sourdough bread, but coming from a fast food place, compared to something like Carl's Jr.'s Southwest Patty Melt, which is absolutely delicious, I think theirs had a little bit more of that sourdough bite to it. But Jack in the Box sourdough is not too bad. But as a sandwich for a whole, it was kind of just a mediocre sandwich. There's really nothing special about it. It's kind of the same old ingredients piled up in the same old way. Pretty generic if you ask me. And at a $4.50 price point, you're getting a decent amount of food, but it really just doesn't taste all that great. Even coming from a Philly cheesesteak fan, I'm a little disappointed. So I'm gonna have to give this a 6 out of 10 for the taste, and also a 6 out of 10 for the bang for your buck. Because really, it's just kind of a meh sandwich. But if you're like me that likes Philly cheesesteaks, I'll still give anyone a try no matter what. But that's mainly how I feel about this sandwich. So thanks for watching, guys. More reviews to come. Subscribe.